Hey, how's it going, guys? Like Butter here, and I decided to give it about a week. I think it was a little bit closer to like 5 or 6 days, to see kind of how my video did and see the feedback of my video on 1.7. I'm showing you guys a little bit of 1.7 Dark Zone PvP here. I decided to hop on and make a follow-up video to the video I made talking about 1.7 that has had a lot of positive and negative feedback, and having a mostly negative review like I did about 1.7, it's not a huge surprise that a Division fan base is going to react that way. And I want to just kind of talk about it and kind of give my overall opinions, and just like I said, make a follow-up video to kind of go over any things I may have missed, or to maybe even further explain some of my points and kind of give feedback on the feedback that I've received. Now, I've seen around two arguments. One is that people agree that the 1.7 is extremely underwhelming for the amount of content that it has, for how long we've waited. And then the other argument is that I'm just being, a crybaby or whatnot, and I'm just, being a huge Division hater, which honestly, if I didn't like the Division, I don't think I would have taken the time to make a almost 30-minute video critiquing it. If I didn't like the game, I wouldn't even, bother making a single video on it, because I wouldn't want to, be showing that to my viewers, or taking the time and effort to kind of give constructive feedback. Because I feel like my video was pretty fair with the constructive feedback that I gave. I feel like I gave a valid side to both arguments and kind of how I feel about it, and I think that my expectations and the reason I'm so hard on the Division is because I know the potential that the game has, and seeing that it's been a game that I've stuck with for almost 2 years now, it's just really sad to see a company like give up on their game. And I'm not saying that the developers specifically that are working on the game are giving up, but you can just tell that Ubisoft is no longer interested in supporting their game to what it deserves. I feel like the Division deserves a lot more than whatever live team they got going on there. I think it's quite obvious that the Division 2 is being worked on, and they have some sort of new employees or people working on the game that clearly weren't working on it for very long, because the implementation of some of the things in 1.7 have been absolutely atrocious. Things that just should not be happening in year 2 of a game's life cycle, like the 99% glitch. Have you guys heard about that? Some people haven't even been able to load their game since the 1.7 patch. Just have not been able to sign in, haven't been able to play the global event, can't even play the game at all. And I think for people that have stuck around, and some of these players as hardcore players, it's extremely just gross to me that there's any type of bug or problem like this that wasn't immediately fixed, that is keeping their hardcore players from playing their game. Now, there's a couple other things that I want to talk about regarding the masks. The implementation of the masks were absolutely atrocious. I think the way they should have done it, and the way I hope they do it for the next global event, and this was a huge mistake, because they wanted to keep the masks like secret or private or whatever, but it wouldn't have been a bad idea for them to test this in the PTS and be like, okay, just be transparent, tell us, okay, this is how we're going to do it. We didn't find out until 1.7 was already out how they were going to distribute the masks. Out of nowhere, they're like, okay, this is how it's going to work. Your best hour for the most amount of global event credits that you can possibly get is going to determine which tier you're in, and then that tier is going to give you a certain amount of mass. First of all, I don't think people that should, cheese the system. Like, I think what people were doing is they were getting all the legendary missions down to one NPC left, and then they were fast traveling around, because if you know how it works, it's kind of real time the way the NPCs work around the map, which means, like, if you leave one NPC up in a mission, it's going to stay that way. If you have somebody stand there, I don't even think you have to do that, because it basically wants to save your progress if you haven't died. So I don't think it's like the leaving the mission area thing that I thought, unless they just, I don't know exactly how they did it, if they had someone stay there or whatnot, but essentially there was a way where you could fast travel around and then kill the last NPC and get 3 legendary missions done in about 10 seconds and then go on and open a bunch of, of the last stand caches that were apparently giving global event credits, and then to just grind clear sky over and over again because it's the incursion that you can do the fastest. I just think it's very poor the way they implemented it, and it's good to see that they're listening to feedback, but the feedback that they should have gotten was from the PTS. What is the point of running a 4-week PTS for a patch, and then you're not even going to, test the main thing that people were looking forward to in this patch? I mean, when I wasn't even going to try 1.7 because I was so disappointed with the amount of content that was revealed. What made me hop on is the amazing masks. Like the trailer that showed the masks off, I'm like, oh my god, the masks look absolutely amazing. I can't wait to get on and grind for those masks. And it finds out that you can't even get them a week later. Not to mention that I was in tier 2 with about, I want to say, 9,000 points, and I read somewhere, I think it was on the Division Twitter, that they were changing the ratios of which they were giving the masks out. So essentially, if you got tier 1, you would receive 1 mask. Tier 2, you would get 2 masks. Tier 3, you would get 3 masks. And I was tier 2 before they made it easier to get the mask. And for some reason, I only received 1 mask, which I think is kind of, crappy, because for me, it's not as big of a deal because, to be honest with you, I might have played the global event for 2 hours tops. But for the people out there, and I've gotten many tweets from a lot of my followers on Twitter saying that they grinded, for hours and hours and hours during this global event to get the tier 3, and then they were tier 3, and all of a sudden they had to wait a whole 7 days to get the masks, and then they only get 1 mask out of the 3. Like, there's just small things like this that should not be happening in the second year of this game's life cycle. And I was just a little bit disappointed with the amount of stuff that 1.7 had in it, especially considering that there was a 4-week PTS and a 6-month wait from 1.6 that we had to wait to see what type of content was coming in year 2. And it's really a huge bummer seeing that those people that kind of jumped on the hate bandwagon when year 2 was announced, to see that they were right about year 2 being complete garbage. It just makes me so sad because and I get it, people are saying, oh, 1.8 is supposed to be when the real content comes out and whatnot, but the problem with that is that they came on during the year 1 anniversary announcement to announce that there's going to be year 2 content, and they said that there was going to be 2 free content updates. The 2 free content updates even then seemed like a very small amount for an entire year of a game that they just spent so much time and so much effort rebalancing and fixing. It just didn't seem that 2 content updates in a span of about 9 months was a lot. And to see that people are kind of just writing off 1.7 as an update that's just adding a few small features. There's no content even in this patch, and I get 1.8 blah blah. I just think that the Division really had its opening window before Destiny 2 comes out, before the huge DLC comes out for Warframe. There was kind of like a drought in games, and I think that if they really kind of and this goes out to Ubisoft. I don't think it was really the developers that made this decision, because it's usually the publishers that make the huge decisions on whether to move on to Division 2 or to stick with the game and use your resources on the game that's over a year old. I think they kind of just made the decision to move on and didn't give the developers enough resources and enough people really and that goes for budget as well, to really make a huge impact on the year 2. So I don't blame the developers working on the game. I do think that there's been some huge mistakes with the implementation of like the global events, and I'll tell you guys what I think they should do next. This is just kind of my little bit of feedback, and I kind of blame myself a little bit too, because I kind of went quiet with the Division, and I've been playing a lot of other games, and I think maybe if I had given this feedback right away, maybe it would have been a little bit different, or if I was kind of in touch with the developers and getting their feedback about how they were going to implement the masks like I used to, I think that would be a lot better if I could have been like, even a couple weeks before 1.7 came out and been like, I mean, anyone could have told you that the way that they did the masks were terrible. I kind of blame myself a little bit for that, and I know I shouldn't blame myself for that, but I do, and that's kind of something that I've been doing over the years. Is I've been really close to the developers, and I've been giving as much feedback as I possibly could. And I think the way they should have done the masks is they should have done, instead of having global events last an entire week, which I think is silly, I think they should have done weekend events. So, for example, last weekend there was a global event. Let's say that it was a 3-day or a 2-day event where it's maybe like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and those 3 days the global event is active. Then on the Monday it becomes inactive, and then you have a regular week, Monday through Thursday of just regular classified drops, and have it be where, maybe for the first weekend it's Lone Star, then give a mask for a commendation or, one of the achievements that they've added and made such a huge feature in this patch. Give a certain amount of things that people need to do, and if you do that, you unlock one mask, and then make it so that the global caches would release one of the gear sets. So that way, if you really wanted Lone Star, you could grind that, because I've seen a lot of people saying that they've been getting classified pieces to gear that they don't even need and whatsoever. So, and then the next weekend comes. Same thing. You have a global event weekend where you have, instead of Lone Star, it's, Deadeye. And then you have another mask that you do a certain amount of things during the global event and you unlock another mask. And what this would have done is it would have split the content up more, and it would have gave people direct reasons to kind of farm certain things, and it would give more concentration to whatever they wanted. So for example, if they really wanted Lone Star, they could grind that weekend as much as possible. And in between the global events, obviously you have the low drop rates to get any of the 3 that are available. And I think this would have been much better, because it would have gave people, even solo players, a chance to spend a lot of time during the global event, do the commendations and do the achievements necessary to unlock the mask, and everyone would have had a chance to get all the masks. I think it's really unfair to block out 90%, or I think at first 95% of the people participating in a global event from the best looking mask that they've created, when these masks are a huge part of the content that's been released in 1.7. So I really hope in the future they do this. I gave feedback of an extremely long time ago, I want to say maybe like 2 months ago, saying that instead of doing weekly global events, they should do weekends, and then give certain things for us to do during that weekend, because that way the global events feel spread out, because it gives you something to look forward to at the end of each week, instead of it being like, oh my god, so there's this one week where you can do all this stuff and you can play as much, and people are cheesing and people are doing clear sky and whatnot in 3 minutes or whatever it is, and then have 3 weeks of the month where there's just nothing really to do. So that's my feedback. That's my follow-up video. I know it's probably going to seem like I was complaining even more, but really I just want to give my feedback out there and give people kind of a reason why I made the video that I did. It wasn't because I hate the Division. It's not because I hate, the Division community. I want the Division to be to the best of its potential that I know that it has never hit, that if it did would be one of the most highly played games on Twitch and Steam and Xbox and PlayStation and wherever it may be. But anyways, thank you guys for watching this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Let me know in the comment section below if you agree or disagree, and I will talk to you guys next time. Take care, everybody.